because they're really smart. All right, so here we go. Bipolar disorder, also symptoms of trapped emotions, PTSD, of course. Do you have to be in the military to get PTSD? No, obviously not. And really, everybody that's suffering from trapped emotions, if they've had anything traumatic happen to them, well, that's post-traumatic stress disorder, right? And of course, the symptoms can be more extreme, but that can vary. So here's the emotion code chart. The organs and some of the glands generate emotional frequencies, okay? And the range of emotion is encompassed by this chart. So sometimes people come to me and they, see, what we used to do is we used to use a chart that was about 3 times bigger than this, okay? That's what I used to use. When I first started teaching seminars, we had a big chart that had like, I don't even remember, 6 or 8 columns. Some of you might remember that years ago. And what I found is over time, I was able to make the chart smaller and smaller by really just kind of incorporating the emotions. Now, in all the time I've been doing this, and all the time our staff has been doing it, and just about everybody else, we've never really needed to go outside of this chart, because if there's an emotion that is not exactly on the chart, what will happen is the subconscious mind will choose the emotion closest to that, and that's close enough, right? And you're good to go. So you don't have to add emotions to it. At least that's what we have found. So where do emotions lodge? Well, intense emotions can overload the generating organ. Now remember that the organs and the glands, most of the glands, generate those energetic frequencies, okay? Now the Chinese used to believe that a couple thousand years ago. And then I think it was like 1,400 years ago or 1,000 years ago or something, there was an acupuncturist that came along and said, no, all the emotions come from the heart, okay? So if you ask an acupuncturist now, that's what they'll probably tell you, that all the emotions generate from the heart. But if you actually ask the body, it'll tell you, no, the emotions generate from the different organs. And you can see the organs on there, the organs and glands. So, how many of you have your new manual, by the way?
Thank you.
What do you think? You like it? Luckily, I got a good deal on about 6 million color copies. Anyway, yeah, but don't they look great in color? Is it nice? Yeah. Cool. All right, well, so intense emotions can overload the generating organ. Abusing an organ can cause it to generate more negative emotions, right? So, for example, if you are drinking alcohol, for example, that alcohol is going to end up in the liver. The liver is going to have to detox that, break that down. That overstimulates the liver. The liver might then start generating some of those emotions on the chart that are listed under liver, like anger. And that's why people get drunk when they get angry, right? That makes sense? Okay. And you can follow that same logic through with all the other organs. Any emotion can become trapped anywhere in the body, right? Anywhere in the body. Even though an emotion might be generated by a particular organ in a particular location, the trapped emotion that's created can be anywhere, okay? Emotions become trapped in areas that are weak or vulnerable due to weakness or imbalance or some kind of metaphysical significance, right? Okay, ever seen that happen? Yeah. You know, for example, I had a patient one time that had, this is kind of a weird one. She had a trapped emotion that was actually lodged in her feet, okay? And it was about, she was trying to make progress in her life, but she had some big blockages about moving ahead, and her feet were killing her, see? So she came in and I tested her, and she had a trapped emotion, and it wasn't in just one foot, it was kind of like in both feet. So when she would walk, I think it would kind of stretch. Weird. But anyway, clearing it out got rid of that pain for her, so kind of funny. Now here's what you don't see, okay? Trapped emotions are normally stored under the skin. Remember, a trapped emotion is a thing. It's a ball of energy. And the same thing applies to, you know, the other energies that we're going to talk about. But normally these are stored under the skin. They're invulnerable to magnetic releasing. Because people have often asked me, well, you know, if I hired a chimp to roll this thing down my back 8 hours a day, would that release all of my trapped emotions? And the answer is no. Why? Chimps are illegal, obviously. But, right? I think they should be if they're not. Anyway, but no, they have to be brought to the surface through this little process. Now watch closely, this guy, okay? Let's say we start working on this guy. We ask, hey, do you have a trapped emotion that we can release now? Maybe he's got some kind of a problem. Well, guess what happens? There it is, starting to surface, okay? Now, One trapped emotion can be identified and brought to the surface at a time. As it's identified and comes to the conscious awareness, it begins emerging out into the energy field, okay? So they're almost like little animals, that kind of, they poke their head out to look around. And that's when you what? Whack them, right? Hey, just want you to remember, all right? That's why I'm giving you these images. It's like a submarine surfacing from the depths. It's going to get bigger. Watch this. As we continue this process, okay, the emotion comes out and gets bigger. And once all the necessary information has been identified, the emotion's surfaced enough, basically, and it's vulnerable to being released. When you use your intention and magnetic energy, the emotion will be forced to leave the body and the energy field. And if you use the emotion code process correctly, you'll be able to release each trapped emotion every time. Okay? And by the way, you can touch the edge of the trapped emotion and you'll get a weak muscle test. How many of you have never actually experienced that? How many of you actually never experienced what an emotion code or what an emotion actually feels like? Okay? To feel an emotion, feel the energy of one of these things. Okay. So a fair amount of you haven't, so I'll show you how that works in a few minutes, okay? And so then once the trapped emotion is released, if you can attempt to clear another one if the body allows it, okay? And most people are able to release around 4 to 10 emotions in any given day, all right? If you try to push it, okay, and you try to release a bunch more than that, the subconscious mind of the individual might allow you to do it, but they're probably going to have a huge processing day the next day. How many of you had that happen? Well, I worked on Shirley for 2 hours. She ought to be fine today, but she's flat on her back. Gee, I wonder why, right? You overdid it. You can do too much of a good thing, right? All right, so here's the trapped emotion flow chart. So how many of you have never seen this process gone through before? Anybody want to see this process?